Welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. October actually is National Substance Abuse Prevention Month. The verbiage a lot of times we get tied up in, but really what we're recognizing is the people remembering those who have we lost through substance use, and also in October on October 10th we do have Mental Health Day. We celebrate since each year to increase involvement in the matters of mental health, encouraging global mental health education, advocacy, and social stigma. Today, a year ago, I started doing monthly themes, and this was the first one. It's okay to fall. It's interesting when we think about falling or failing and how it attaches to our value. Today, I have a returning guest. It's been a bit of time, but I'm so glad that he's back. It's Richard. Thank you. Thank you for coming on, Richard, and sharing your insight with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you again. I so much appreciate talking to you and sharing and listening to your wisdom and being able to help people. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
No problem. And I want to share with those who are listening a disclaimer. If you are in crisis, please seek appropriate professional help immediately. The crisis hotline in the United States is 1-800-273-8255. But I do encourage all those who are listening, because I know there are some outside the United States. Do find what resources you have, because support comes in all different ways. And support, and I feel that for me, healing comes in different ways, and so does support. So I do encourage you to find what's out there for you. And I always begin with a quote, because I know people say it better. And this is from the guy from England, Prime Minister Winston Churchill. He says, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." I know, just to start us off in the talk of what comes to mind when you just hear this in the context of substance use. You deal with adolescents.
Yeah.
How does this translate for you?
Well, success is not a lack of failure. Success is not a lack of failure. If you live long enough on this earth, you're going to fail, and probably you're going to repeatedly fail. But success is not a lack of failing or failure. It really is the stamina to overcome failure, to learn from our failures, to grow from our failures, and to take that wisdom that we can get from failing and turn it into an asset so that we can move forward.
I totally agree, because right now when I meet people, I talk to people, what I notice is not how much they know, but how willing they are to keep going, because we don't have the capacity to know every single skill. A lot of things are learned, and that's why I think George Bernard Shaw says it, kind of even to emphasize what we're talking about. A life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable but more useful than a life spent doing nothing. Sometimes we're so afraid to get up, and I feel that's when we say it's okay to fall. It's kind of how we view and how we reframe our situation and how we step forward. Richard, last time you were here, you were talking about your book, The Addicted Child. I remember. Yes. And any parent right now listening to what we're saying, and maybe they have a child that's struggling, and they're like, well, up in arms are like the title of this monthly theme. I do not want "It's Okay to Fall." My child is not doing well, but at the same time, addicted child, that in itself, that's something I think parents dread to even hear or even recognize, especially. So, what are your thoughts? What would you share? And I know I'm going right into the question, but recovery is messy. But before we get there and talk about that, what would you say to a parent struggling with an addicted child, or someone who is a child that's with substance use?
Well, you're right,
issues.
Robert. This is a very scary subject to parents, and unfortunately, many parents want to shy away from it. They don't want to consider it. They don't want to hear about it. They assume it will never happen to their child, and that's a very dangerous attitude to have. And that's why I wrote my book, was to educate parents, to give them knowledge, to give them information, so that they feel more empowered and less afraid. But what I would say to any parent who is struggling with a child who is using substances is, first of all, don't give up hope. Don't give up hope that your child can recover, that you can find treatment options, that you can help your child and your family. So first of all, don't give up hope. Secondly, we know that treatment works. And I have sections in my book on different treatment options, because there's not one treatment that fits every single individual case. So I talk about the different treatment options that are available for parents. But know that we need to understand that treatment is effective. Treatment works. Adolescents and adults can get through this addiction struggle, and they can recover, and they can come out much improved. And then third, I would say, get support for yourself, because it's not just your child that needs help. You need help too. Your family needs help. Addiction may be affecting your child, but it doesn't just affect your child. It affects the entire family. So get the support that you and your family need, so that as you go through this process of helping your child, getting assessments done, getting treatment, into recovery, you can take care of yourself. You can get help for yourself as well.
I really like everything you say. I remember, I was talking to you before I started this new position, and some of the clients draw up treatment plans. And one of the most important treatment plan goal I have is client will discuss all barriers and successes in maintaining mental health stability, or substance use stability. The thing is, I need them to talk. There's going to be rough. There's going to be rainy days. There's going to be times when it's not going to work out well. But keeping the discussion happening. The ones that I feel is hard, when it comes to this subject, is the ones who get so frustrated they close themselves off, or they ignore it, or they just say,
yeah.
And I feel that's where saying and addressing it's okay to fall. I know with me and some people I've known who have stress, or they have symptoms. If you're stressed about being stressed, or you're upset that things are not going, it will exasperate and elevate the situation even further. Yeah. Saying it's okay doesn't mean we're okay with the situation. It says it's okay, that each in recovery there's little steps to it, and you will fall. But it's your attitude forward and promoting that kind of safe place moving forward. I remember also that you mentioned some signs, that parents can watch for. Richard, is there any signs that you would like to share, or even add, especially now with all that's going on and with substance use? Everyone's we thought we were over with COVID, and then now it's going back to with everything. There's a lot of fear out there, and already without substance use, and if the child's having these issues, what signs would you want to mention or add or emphasize?
Well, that's very important, because so many times I would sit with parents, and I would go through their child's history of using a substance and give them the diagnosis of substance use disorder, and they would look across at me and they would say, I had no idea this was going on. Or if they did suspect something was going on, they would say, I sort of thought something was going on, but I didn't think it was this bad. And it's not that these parents were bad parents. They're good parents. They care about their child. They missed the warning signs because nobody told them what to look for. Nobody told them what the warning signs were. Yeah. So a large part of my book is helping parents know what the warning signs are. What are the warning signs for using marijuana or drinking alcohol, or maybe a child developing an eating disorder or self-harming, because they sometimes accompany alcohol and drug use. So what are the warning signs? And as a general rule, besides the specific warning signs that I have in my book, but as a general rule, I say to parents, pay attention to the changes that you see in your child. You
Hmm.
know your child better than anyone, so pay attention to those changes. Don't assume that the changes you're seeing are just normal adolescent acting out. They may very well be, but they might also be an indication that there's something else going underneath the surface that you need to take a look at. So some examples would be a child, for example, that used to participate in sports now no longer wants to participate. A
Hmm.
child who was earning very good grades and now the grades are declining. A child who used to be very social and outgoing now becomes very quiet and isolating. A child who very openly introduced you to their friends. You knew who their friends were. You might have even known who their families were. Now
Hmm.
becomes very secretive of their friends. So the more of these changes that you see and the longer they last, I think that's a red flag that parents need to be aware of and get some help to figure out what's really going on underneath the surface.
I was my wife has this book called Untranslatable Words, and I'm half Korean, and there's this one word that stood out to me. It's called nunchi, and really what it means is the subtle, often unnoticed art of listening and gauging another's mood. And I find it's funny because a lot of times when I was growing up with my mom, there was just this intensity of always listening very intently. And I feel sometimes, being present with someone has been lost at times. And
Yeah.
it's not, we're just so busy. We're so busy. We're so in a rush. We're so urgently going. So I feel slowing down and sometimes can be, it doesn't solve everything, but it does kind of slow us down to kind of notice these little things that we may not notice in the busy lifestyle or overlook. Nunchi is just kind of a funny word, but I feel listening is such a deep conversation of how sometimes things are lost in translation because of it. We kind of go through life. Well, he's not doing good in grades. We'll just kind of have this general blanket statement. Oh, because of this, but we don't even ask the child or have them actively participate in that discussion. We're just like we just assume because I think that is what I've personally with my mom and growing up in that kind of lifestyle. Nunchi, I didn't even know there was a word. I'm like, I want to share this, so I just put it down. But I thought that was funny when we think about how words don't translate, but it does really share a lot in regards to how we communicate. So,
I think I like the fact that you phrased it as the art of listening because it is an art. It is a skill. And I say to parents, it is a skill. Listening is a skill that you can practice and you can learn. We're very good when we talk to each other at hearing each other's words.
Yeah.
But we're not so good at hearing the feelings that are behind those words. And that's really the art of listening. It's not just listening to the words, it's listening to the feelings behind those words. So that when we're talking to each other or we're talking to our children, maybe about a problem we're concerned about or an issue we're concerned about, we're not just listening to our child's words, we're listening to the feelings behind those words and reflecting them back. That's the art of listening.
Yeah, and I feel it's everything you're saying, and also just the idea that when you're reading a good book, you get immersed. The characters they're emotional they get emotionalized, and then so when you see our child or a family member, a lot of times we look at that situation as that's us, our character, but we got to remember their character, understand their emotions of what they're going through, not put ourselves there and think that they're going to react the same way we do. And I feel that's kind of the art per se that is kind of hard to see. Vacilando, another word that I love because it just basically says it's not translatable, but it does kind of say, throw the map away. It's a journey. A lot of times we say the destination, like with parents, people they want to say, what's the quick fix? When is my child going to be cured from this? You probably heard that. When is my child just going to stop it? This is really, but a lot of times, it's a lot of people are not asking the right questions. Not they're asking why shouldn't they do this? What they shouldn't do this. They don't ask what happened.
Yeah.
Or so I feel Vasilando doesn't put so much emphasis, like I said, the urgency on the destination, but the process of healing, the process of recovery. And I feel that's why I mentioned this word, and that's why. But I want to ask you a little this question, Richard. When it comes to addiction and your own experience, when when it comes to addiction and your own experience, advantages it looks towards recovery, towards a journey versus a destination. Basically, I messed up the verb wording, but when it comes to journey versus destination, what is the advantages when you're thinking, when you're a parent thinking about your child going into rehab, going into detox? What have you seen when they have that kind of fluidity that it's not going to be fixed in 6 months versus
I think when they look at it as being a destination, that the goal is to end substance use, and yes, that is the goal.
Yeah,
but it could set you up for tremendous disappointment because relapse is a part of the disease of addiction. Unfortunately, people will relapse, adults will relapse, adolescents will relapse. And we can look at a relapse as being a learning experience. What did we learn from the relapse, which will give us insight to ensuring that perhaps it won't happen as again or as often? So relapses can be learning experiences. We don't like to see them. We don't like for them to happen, but they are a reality that they may happen. And if so, can we look at it as a learning experience? But recovery is a lifelong journey. It doesn't begin and stop after a certain 90-day treatment program or a 30-day treatment program. It is an ongoing experience. It is an ongoing journey. And the individual who has been captured by substance abuse, whether they're an adult or an adolescent, has to learn the skills that they will use as tools along this journey to increase the likelihood that they won't relapse. But it is a journey. It is not a end all destination that happens after a certain number of days or months.
And it's just Albert Einstein says the one constant in life is change. Yes. And that is whether you have substance use, you're constantly changing. And one of the things about change is even good change is stressful. So when you talk about substance use, it does make sense. It's not getting somewhere; it's becoming something else. When it comes to a lot of times as a leader in church, you have these, people are like, well, you just have to have a relationship with God. And I'm going to say this real quickly because it's assumed they know what a healthy relationship is. Now, what if they don't and they have that faith? It's the same thing with substance use. Some things may be overlooked and then they relapse, but then you readdress it and you see what didn't work at that time.
Right.
Relationships, healthy relationships sometimes get overlooked a lot. People say, well, I'm doing good in a structured environment. I'm doing all I should. And then they want more, but they never established any boundaries or all that stuff. So I've seen that. But also George Bernard says it this way: 2 things define you: your patience when you have nothing and your attitudes when you have everything. I feel there are times when you're maintaining in that 5 stages or whatever stages of recovery, but then life changes, a life event happens, and you go back to the planning phase. You go back to the action phase, and you have to maintain again. But the thing is, I feel that is why I'm saying this month it's okay to fall. It is the process. Allow yourself that process. As we wrap up, and I really appreciate you, Richard, just coming on and sharing your insight. Anything you want to share in regards to what you've been regards to substance use, your book, anything that you want to share, adding on, especially what's going on today, anything that you want to share with those listening today?
I would say that number one, I encourage parents to learn as much as they can about
Mm,
this issue of adolescent substance abuse. The earlier you can get on top of this, that you can know the warning signs, that you can know what your options are, the better you may feel prepared to deal with this issue if you have to.
mm,
Um, and if you can take advantage of my resource, the book. It's called The Addicted Child: A Parent's Guide to Adolescent Substance Abuse. It's available on Amazon or at the book's website, www.helptheaddictedchild.com. If you like to read on a Kindle like I do,
mm.
it's available for 99 cents. So it's not going to cost you an awful lot of money to get the information that's in that book. If you prefer a paperback version, that's available as well through Amazon or through the book's website. But regardless of the age of your child, regardless of where they are in their life, the best advice that I have is become knowledgeable, learn the warning signs, learn your options. Knowledge is power. Hopefully you'll feel less afraid and more confident to deal with this issue in the event that you have to. And finally, if you find yourself in a situation where your child is using substances, I know that that's scary. I know that it's frightening, but know that there is help out there. There's
Mm.
mental health resources. There's substance abuse resources. There's resources from your church. There's resources from your communities to give both your child and yourself the support that will help you get through this journey. And it is a journey.
Yeah. And, I really appreciate you, Richard, sharing all that, knowledge. There's so much uncertainty. And if we could grab some of the knowledge so it's not so dark when when you're dealing with a family member, when we're not so blind of what options we have, it does help. One of the things is when you don't know anything that's going on. I remember when I was in school, I forgot I didn't do any of my homework one time. I'd go have this big project, that gut wrenching feeling. A lot of those could be prevented. Not saying that we have certainty of what will happen in the recovery of your child or your family member, but finding that knowledge will be beneficial. So you know what options are out there, especially when the world of uncertainty and change. I do feel that it's great advice to take the advantage of the information out there. Thank you, Richard, for being a part of the discussion today. I want to share with those who are listening that you can find out all the updates with Revive Ministries at reviveministriesfl.com. Everything that Richard had shared, all the links and all that will be in the notes. This is goodbye from Revive Ministry Podcast with this last quote. It's from Ralph Waldo Emerson. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in the rising every time we fall. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you so much for inviting me back to the program. I appreciate it.
No problem.